Today in Algebra 1, we started talking about linear functions as a parent function and some of its transformations. The basic function is that y equals x, and it looks like this. If I go to my calculator, I'm going to go to y equals, so turn it on, right? Clear out anything that might already be there, and hit in y equals x and graph. And now we can see what that graph looks like, and make a sketch of it here. We're just looking for a sketch. Now, if we want to know what y equals x plus 6 looks like, we can go back to y equals and type in x plus 6 and graph. And you can see that this graph has shifted up, or it appears to have gone up. If we counted it, we would see that it's gone up 6. And I'm going to try to get a good sketch. Let me grab a straight edge here. Okay, and that's my new graph. If I do the last one, which is x minus 4, go back to y equals, and type in x minus 4, hit graph. I'm going to do that right there. And that means it has shifted down 4. I can see that. Trying to make sure I get through the correct points here. And that one has shifted down. It asks me, how are the lines the same? In class we said they're all straight. They go up. Maybe you noticed some different things about that. What about the lines is different? And we said what's different is their position, some people said. I said, tell me more about that. We said, well, their y-intercept, or where they cross the y-axis, is changing. Where does each cross the y-axis? Okay, well, the first one crosses at 0, the second one crosses at 6, and the third one crosses at negative 4. What happens to the graph when the constant is added to y equals x? It shifts, or it moves up or down. Write an equation for the line similar to those above, but crosses the y-axis at 5. That would be y equals x plus 5. Write an equation for a line similar to those above, but crosses the y-axis. That would be y equals x minus 2. Okay, that's the first group. Those are called translations. And a translation is where it's just shifted up or down, and I can tell that by the number added on to the end. Group number 2. How are the lines alike? The first one's y equals x. We know what that one looks like. We've looked at it before. The second one, let's clear out what else is in our calculator so far and put in negative x. When I do that, I see that that second line is going down. Other than that, everything else about it's the same. Still goes through 0, 0, still straight. How is it alike? So it crosses the origin. Right? It's straight. It's about the same steepness, right? How are they different? One goes down and one goes up. And one is negative and one is positive, right? This is called a reflection. And a number in a positive or negative sign in front tells me when the graph is reflected. Graph, we have several different ones we want to sketch, starting with y equals x, so we're going to sketch that here. The next one was y equals 2x, so I'm going to put that one in. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 at a time. I'm also going to do this 5x. So let's watch it as it graphs. There's y equals x, y equals 2x, and y equals 5x. So I'm going to sketch those here. That one's probably too similar to y equals x, so let me try and do a little steeper there. And the last one is the steepest of them all, of those 3 we looked at. So there's those in sequence. The next line asks me to do some fractions. So if I do that, I want to be sure I put those in parentheses. I'm going to do 1/2 x, 1/3 x, and that last one is 1/4 x. And graph those. There's the first, the second, and the third. And you're probably noticing that as the fraction gets smaller, the line is getting closer and closer to the x-axis and getting flatter and flatter. Describe the differences. We said in class their steepness. Which line appears the steepest? Y equals 5x. What makes the difference? And we said the number in front of x, or the slope, is what makes the difference there. On the last page that we used for notes, we said, how are these lines different? So we started with y equals negative x. Clear this other stuff out. Y equals negative 2x. Y equals negative 4x. We're going to graph those and then transfer what we see onto our paper. I'm going to give you a second to make sure you've done that. They're getting steeper and steeper. They should all be going through 0, so just kind of have to let my sketching get away there. How are the lines different? They're steepness, right? And these are all going down. That was different than the last group we looked at. Which line appears the steepest? That would be the y equals negative 4x line. What makes the difference? Again, the slope is what makes the difference. Okay, now we're going to compare some different graphs. In each one of these groups of 3, we're going to say, where does it cross the y-axis? Which is the steepest and why? So let's put them in together. The first one is 2x plus 7. The next one is negative x plus 11. And the last one is 1/2 x minus 8. Always be sure when you're doing those fractions, you put them in parentheses. And let's watch as the calculator graphs those. The first one crossed at 7. The second crossed at 11. We can't see that, but we can pretty much tell it's right up there, and that number 11 should be cluing us in. And the last one is down 8. The steepest one, let's take a look at that. I think the steepest one is probably this first one. And the reason is the slope of 2 is the highest number we see for slope. Let's look at the next group. Y equals x plus 8. Oops, not 87. 3x minus 4. And 1/2 x plus 3. While it's graphing, you can probably guess what's going to happen here and then confirm that that's true. So this crosses at 8, negative 4 and 3 from these last numbers. And the steepest this time is the middle, and that's because the slope is equal to 3. On the last one, I'm not even going to put it in the calculator because I think you can do it without it. This one should be crossing, of course, at 8, 5, and this one doesn't have a number. So it doesn't have a number, it's at 0. And you can look at your calculator to confirm that. And then which is the steepest? Again, that's the middle one because the slope, the number of the slope is negative 2, but the number part is the largest. Let's synthesize what we've talked about here. If a linear equation can be written in the form y equals mx plus b, where m and b represent any real values, explain the effect of m on the graph. M, the slope, affects the steepness, right? Explain b. So b, or the y-intercept, changes up or down. So that tells us if the graph just shifted up or down. Okay, on the back page, what you're asked to do, this is your homework assignment, is to finish this up on the back, is to write an equation that you think satisfies the conditions. What do you do to make the equation y equals x steeper? And we said that was to change the slope. And to make the slope steep, we would always want a whole number, like 6x and y equals 12x, maybe. To make it flatter, remember when we were trying to make it flatter, it was fractions. And then the rest of it I think you can make on your own. Be sure that you get that done. If you have questions, let me know.